Social media accounts for All Things America reports. The story with Martha starts right now. Hi, Martha.
Hi there, guys. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Martha McCallum, and breaking right now on the story, new details on the U.S. agreement with Iran from senior U.S. officials. If the Iranians stay in line, the United States will permit some sanctions relief to the country, and $300 billion in financing from regional states. The president saying not a dime of that would come from the United States. This is tied to Iran committing to a, quote, minimum standard where their enrichment of uranium would be destroyed by downblending or diluting. The deal also says that the Strait of Hormuz will be open for 60 days, toll-free. President Trump says that a deal depends on Iran, quote, behaving, or they will get, quote, hit again.
It's a memorandum of understanding. If it doesn't get done in 60 days, that's all right. We go back to bombing. You know, I don't want to do that because it's so good. But we might have to, because we're never going to let them have a nuclear weapon. But they've agreed not to, and you'll see that very clearly in the agreement.
David Asman and Masih Alinejad join me in moments, but first to senior White House correspondent Peter Doocy, fresh off of a lengthy news conference with President Trump at the G7 in France. Hi, Peter.
Yes, and Martha, if Iran lives up to their end of the deal, they will get to cash in big time, billions of dollars worth of selling oil. They can also apply for this money in a fund to help rebuild, and they can see some of their own funds unfrozen. But President Trump wants to make one thing very clear. None of that money is coming directly from the U.S. taxpayers.
Can you explain, though, what the difference is between giving Iran U.S. dollars and unfreezing U.S. dollars for
Well,
you?
the unfreezing is an easy one to answer. We have taken a lot of their money, and we have their money. We have taken their money. It's not our money. It's their money, and we froze it. At a certain point in time, I guess we're going to have to give it back.
While we were there with the president, senior officials were briefing reporters on a conference call, and so we were learning a lot all at once about this new deal, including how the United States will get Iran to stick to their pledge not to pursue a nuclear weapon.
So you're threatening to bomb Iran if they don't comply, but there's nothing enforceable in the deal itself. Is that correct?
Doesn't have to be.
That's because President Trump says if they start breaking the rules, the U.S. will resume a bombing campaign again. Same story if the Strait of Hormuz closes or if Iran tries to charge tolls in the strait.
Thing that's going to stop them from doing that, because you can't cover everything in a document, is common sense. They don't want to get bombed. They don't want to get hit.
It looks like Air Force One just landed in Paris. President Trump has dinner at Versailles tonight, and we did have a chance to ask him why he's not sticking around here in Europe for Friday's signing of this memorandum of understanding. I asked if that's because he wants J.D. Vance to go so that if things work out, he gets credit for sending the vice president, and if things don't, he can blame the vice president. The president said he likes that idea. Martha.
Yeah, he liked that idea, Peter. Thank you very much. So with that, we bring in David Asman, Fox Business anchor, and Masih Alinejad, Iranian American journalist and activist who survived multiple kidnapping and assassination attempts by Iran. Great to have both of you with us here. Masih, just first your sort of headline as you look at this deal. How do you feel about it? What does it do for Iran?
First of all, I gave credit to President Trump for killing Ali Khamenei, who was the biggest enemy of America, who was the one who ordered the massacre. When he removed the high-ranking members of Revolutionary Guards, the terrorist organization, we gave him credit. That was a real win. But let's just quote President Trump when he said he only accepts an unconditional surrender from the Islamic Republic. This deal is very far away from unconditional surrender. So I don't call it a real win because, first of all, there is no mention about the people of Iran, about the massacre, about the human rights. I was a big critic of President Obama for years and years for abandoning the people of Iran. President Trump was the one who promised, who delivered some of the promises, but this deal, it's not surrender. So for me and millions of Iranians, we are nervous because we know that how they're going to use the money. to rebuild Hamas, to rebuild Hezbollah, to rebuild the Houthi. And I'm here to echo the voice of people who are better allies for Americans, the people of Iran. These government, we cannot dream that they're going to change their behavior. You know, when President Biden actually walked out from Afghanistan, I said that myself, that President Biden only replaced Taliban with the Taliban by spending a lot of resources of Americans. I think this is quite like the same. President Trump replaced the Islamic Republic with the Islamic Republic.
Yeah. So David, the president went through a number of things that on the accomplishment side of the ledger, the killing of Soleimani, the taking out of 2 levels of regime, which Masih just mentioned, and the obliteration of the 3 nuclear sites, all obviously very aggressive moves that no prior president took. But then I think he made it clear that at this moment in history, as he looks at his presidency, he is more interested in the economy than in going down the further military route at this moment. And here's what he had to say about not wanting to be Herbert Hoover. Watch.
The normal flow of energy will resume in the coming days, and trillions of dollars will be made by the world. Rather than having your favorite president be Herbert Hoover, I was always the one I didn't want to be. And it caused the Great Depression. So I don't think I'll make mistakes like that.
So we're rising oil prices, a risk of a depression in the United States and further around the world.
Well, first of all, it never rose to where it was during the Biden administration. Remember, it went up to $5 a gallon for gas in June of 2022. And in today's money, by the way, it's $5.60. Now it's just down to $4.02. Looks like it's going into the $3 level pretty quickly. The price of oil, as you can see on the bottom of the right of the screen, is no longer in the 90s. It's now $76.51. So already, because of what's happened, the thing is looking much better from an economic standpoint. There is a midterm election coming up, after all. I don't mean to be cynical, but that, I think, played part into his decision. However, having said all the positives, and you mentioned the military positives, is just really defanging this regime, at least in the short term, for a year, 2 years, whatever it is. And that was significant. No other president has done what he did to strike at the heart of Iran's military power. But there's so many unknowns about exactly how much money the Iranian regime is going to get to rebuild, exactly what's going to happen with the Strait of Hormuz. This concept of ridiculous concept of allowing an international waterway like the Strait of Hormuz to become a toll booth. I mean, it's not like the Panama Canal where you're paying for the infrastructure to get you through. Again, we don't know the details. This is a memorandum of understanding. It is not the actual deal. Tweaks can be made along the way. In fact, I think a lot of what the president's been doing this week is to sit back, kind of get the feedback from what the
David,
world is happening. But
hang
there
there
he is.
for 1 second. Here's President Trump.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.